All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Maria Mancia. I am the national recruiter. I welcome you to take down my telephone number and my email. If at any point you have any questions about anything at all having to do with the application process or ACSOM at all, please send me an email or give me a call. I am more than happy to help at any time. All right, so I do want to welcome everybody here. You are all welcomed future doctors, right? We're hoping that you will join the ACSOM family. And after tonight's webinar, we hope you'll have a lot more information and we'll be ready to apply. So I do want to start by introducing Dr. Arvind Bhagapur. He is the visionary founder of the American Canadian School of Medicine. And it is under his leadership that ACSOM is dedicated to shaping well-rounded and highly skilled physicians ready to make an impact. So welcome, Dr. Arvind Bhagapur, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, can we hear? Picture. There we go. Perfect.
There we go. Welcome.
All right. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody from wherever you are in the U.S., Canada, or around the world. I am in Houston, Texas. I'm a board-certified diagnostic radiologist, and I'm a fellowship-trained interventional radiologist. And in about a slide or so, I'm going to show you a quick little TikTok that'll show kind of things that I do on a typical day. Just to give you a little bit of background and why I think it's important that people hear what I have to say. I'm not going to talk too much about the university. We got a lot of things that's going to go on there, but I want to talk a little bit about myself and my pathway. I went to the University of Texas at in Austin, and then I ended up going to a Caribbean medical school. I went to the school in Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica, and it was called Ross University School of Medicine. It still exists today. It's a good school. I went there, and I ended up graduating. I did a internship in general surgery at Beth Israel, which is now called Mount Sinai in New York City. That was for 1 year. And so I did 4 years in medical school, 2 years in Dominica, 2 years at clinical site that Ross had set up for me. And then 1 year as an intern, general surgery. If you become a subspecialist or anything like that, you generally have to do an intern a year. If you go into the primary care fields, you don't have to do an intern. It's part of your residency. Then from there, I went on to do my radiology residency at the University of Texas in San Antonio. And then I finished my fellowship after 4 years of diagnostic radiology at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio, as well as in Weston, Florida, outside of Miami and Fort Lauderdale, as a vascular interventional radiologist. So I do a lot of procedures and things like that. What I could like to show right now is just the background on what I do. So maybe we can go to that slide, and then I'll talk to you about the things that I did as the reason why I opened up the medical school, founded it. It's the very first nonprofit medical school. I'll tell you why that's important in a few minutes, and I'll tell you about why ACSOM was built, what its mission is, and what makes it uniquely different than everybody else. And I will give you a little bit of background on why I'm in a very unique position to do this. But first, I want to switch over to the video so you can get you excited and see what I'm doing and some of the stuff I do. Sorry if this is a little cheesy, but I just wanted to show one of the procedures that I do. I'm a proceduralist. I do read imaging, but I do things in the hospital where I save people's lives, like many of you will do in your future. And some of you may go into internal medicine, primary care, pediatrics, all these different fields, maybe not a surgical specialty or things like that, but we'll all work together. So I just wanted to give you kind of a typical 2 hours of my day inside the hospital, of which I probably spend a lot of time. And that's why I just kind of want to show you that real quick. So if we could go ahead and just show that video, is that okay?
Let's take a look.
I think you can just push play. If not, IT can push play for us.
Yeah, let's have our wonderful IT staff. I don't seem to have access to that.
Okay, one sec. He's putting it up.
One moment. Technical difficulties. In the meantime, though, I do welcome you to drop in the little chat where in the world you're from. I am in Chicago, the beautiful city of Chicago. We'd love to know where you are.
Hi, this is Dr. Bhagapur with the American Canadian School.
Okay, here we go. We'll back up, and then You guys, in the
Hi, this
meantime,
is
yeah,
Dr.
please feel
Fagerford
free
with
to
American.
send the chat over and tell us where you're from.
Hi, this is Dr. Fagerford with the American Canadian School of Medicine. I'm the chairman of the board of trustees. They just called me to come to the ER. All right, so I went to the ER and the patient has a bleed. So they asked me to go in and embolize it. That means stop the bleeding without cutting them open. We go into the catheterization lab to do that.
Coil this with tubes.
At this point, of
That's one
course,
of the
being deployed
arteries.
and checking if blood can get past the coils to stop the bleeding within the
That's the
distal
coil down
artery,
there that I put in.
supplying the blood flow to the tumor that's bleeding.
They were bleeding
Right
out of
here,
the
we're
ovarian
correlating
artery.
with the CT, looking for a bleed deep down in the
And if you
pelvis. Here it
get
is.
down here into detail, there's
Now
this
we
bright
inject it with
spot. That
contrast to
was the
see
blood.
if there's bleeding on the other side.
And then I come back in and we've closed
So
up
that
the
surgery took
bleeding.
about 2.5 hours, or I should say procedure and angiography, and we're done. The bleeding stopped. These are the type of great things you're going to learn at American Canadian School of Medicine.
So that's just one thing that I do. And there's a lot of other things. You can go to my TikTok and see other surgeries and things like that in clinicals. So I'm going to spend some time after I do a brief introduction about the school, about the clinicals and how that's important to you, because only your first 2 years, when actually it's just 20 months, are done in Dominica. Dominica is a beautiful place, and I'll talk to you about that later, but I'm going to get into why I founded the university. I went to Ross University School of Medicine. Like I said, it's a good school, but there's a lot of room of improvement for schools in the Caribbean. If you look at 4 or 5 of the large schools in the Caribbean, they all run typically the same. You go 2 years to a lecture-based learning classroom, and there are a lot of students. These schools are for profit. Their job is to put as many people's seats filled so they can fill the coffers of the stock market companies that own them and the private equity companies that own them. I don't know about you, but US and Canadian schools, 99% of them are nonprofit schools. Their sole mission is to educate and create physicians for the future, not to put money in their bank accounts. And when you take that piece out of it, a lot of things change, as you can imagine. We're all familiar with that. So we created the very first nonprofit medical school. I'm very fortunate that I've done well since I finished school. Unfortunately for me, and so why I wanted this school is the reason we opened this school also was I graduated with over $500,000 of student loan debt. I don't think that's acceptable either. I don't think being owned by a for-profit school is acceptable. I don't think having a massive amount of student loan debt that you could go buy a big house with. And frankly, by the time I graduated and finished fellowship, because all those debt gets put in deferment, um, turned out to be $750,000 almost. I gave a speech this last year at the National Advisors of Pre-Medical Healthcare Advisors talking about this, and they were shocked. The average student loan debt graduating from the big Caribbean for-profit schools, and they're all for profit, is over $458,000. That's published data. That's not made up by me. I don't think that's right. So that's another reason why we founded this school. And I'll get into some of the tuition and how we make it cheap and subsidize it with scholarships and whatnot. So I don't think lecture-based learning is the modern day medicine of what's being taught. I don't think having large amount of student loan debt and being owned by for-profit companies is what's being taught, which should be done. And I think you should have high quality clinical sites and high quality education, and none of that should be compromised because of the less tuition that you pay. So, being a nonprofit, we don't need to make profits for any board or any any non-charitable event. Your tuition is generally lower than all the tuition of the US schools for in-state tuition, about 15% lower actually. Then we have a lot of scholarships because I don't want students to get in debt. I don't want um, finances to get in the way of you achieving your dream of becoming a doctor. You should not have to mortgage your home and all this other stuff like multiple levels and delay the formation of your great life as a physician to pay back all this debt. So our tuition is $50,000 a year. That does, there are no fees included. That means if you look at these other schools, some of them charge as much as 18% in quote unquote fees for God knows what. But with all that said, we keep your tuition down, we subsidize your debt, and you get financial aid, the equivalent of graduate plus loans with the same interest rates as the U.S. government. In fact, we even subsidize some of those loans to keep them down and low price for you. So our students won't graduate with anywhere near about one half of the amount of financial load that the other schools that you have to graduate from. But that does not mean that you will not get a quality education. The education that we've created is years in the making. Over 5 years of curriculum development that is made so you do not have to go to school and sit in a big lecture hall and get distracted by this iPhone and everything else going on in your life. In the morning, you're going to come to lecture. You're going to get an hour and a half lecture by an expert faculty. I encourage you to go to our website, look at all our faculty members. There's over 40 of them. The great majority are from the US and from Canada. They're going to teach you in the mornings on a disease process that you're learning about that system that week. Traditional medical school, and even in the States and in Canada, because you have these legacy programs, have not evolved, and they teach you in topics like we learn in college: histology, biochemistry, um, immunology, embryology, you name it, pathology, anatomy. It's all broken up into sections. Some schools break it up into like the heart or this or that. We break it up into really cool modules. So your first module is called Fundamentals of Medicine. Second module is called Attack and Defense. First module will include biochemistry, genetics, all those things that you would get in a traditional medical school and get taught like at the other Caribbean schools. However, it's integrated into a clinical basis. So from day one, you're learning how to pass your USMLEs or your Canadian exams, your board exams, and how to perform well in the wards when you get to your clinicals. That's completely different. That is how Yale, that is how Stanford, that's how Johns Hopkins, that's how University of Vermont, some of the big modern curriculums are taught. And the reason our curriculum was able to be developed like this was because we went to like institutions. We hired individuals to do curriculum development, and we spent 5 years developing this curriculum so it could be dynamic and for you to learn. When you learn about thyroid disease, you're not going to be learning just about the disease. You're going to be learning about diagnosis of the disease, what's the underlying cause of the disease, what's the anatomy of the disease, what are the biochemistry markers of the disease, all in one. So when you've learned about Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hyperthyroidism, which many of us may have heard about, you're going to understand and remember it all. And you're not going to have to come back to it 2 years from now when you're taking your boards, because you understood the disease, you understand all those pieces I just explained to you, and you put it into a context that's clinical, that's important to you, versus, oh, this is what TSH is, or this is what T3 is and how it's made. That's great and dandy, but we've all have probably at some point from high school to college learned the Krebs cycle and general biology. If I ask anybody right now to write me down the Krebs cycle, you probably won't remember. But if I start talking about it in the scopes of mitochondrial diseases, diseases that occur on genetic basis, diseases that occur with metabolic disorders, and make it useful and contextual for you, you will do a great job at taking those quiz questions, the board questions, and doing well in front of your attendings at your clinical rounds. So you're always preparing for your USMLEs. Those are, or your Canadian boards. That's all. Those are the things that every day we're testing you for, and they're not always graded tests. In fact, what you're going to get is you're going to get quizzes the night before, orientation on the Canvas platform, where you're going to do your practice questions and go through your PowerPoints and everything else you need to learn. Then in the morning, you're going to get your lecture, and then you break off into these small room classes. These small room classes are limited to 10 students to one MD doctor. Why do I say medical doctor? Because not all Caribbean schools or international schools are the same. You will be shocked to learn that the other schools in the Caribbean do not use MDs exclusively to teach you. What does that mean? When I was at Ross University, and I'm proud of that, I went to a good medical school and did well, but I'm not proud of the fact that a veterinarian taught me pathology about sarcomas because they're used to sarcomas in dogs. I want to be taught by an MD about why and what and a sarcoma is, how it's treated, how do you get to the pathology of it, how do you have all these pieces. And then I also want to have mentorship, because that's what's important. You as a young medical student need to have mentorship by doctors like me, other doctors in the fields that you're interested in, to help guide you as you finish your first year and get into your second year, take your boards and go into your clinical years, help guide you and help develop you when you're showing the best of yourself and all your knowledge in front of these people who are acting as your attending, as your teachers, but also your possible future jobs, because you can get a residency at these places where you do your clinical rotations. All right. And then the academics from there, they're always getting quizzed, always getting tested, and you're always getting taught daily. And you're getting questions by what's called the NBME, the National Board of Medical Examiners. Not all the schools have access to this. US schools do. We have access to it. The reason is this NBME body, they write the USMLEs, the board exams. So these are the questions that you're going to be practicing daily, and you're going to be able to see how you're doing against the cohorts and your counterparts in the US and in Canada that are also doing this, so we can gauge and you can gauge how you're going to do on the test way, way, way ahead of when 2 years comes around the road, or a year when you're about to take your board exams. Board exams, we have board prep for you to prepare you for it. We're gonna work with you to make sure you know how to answer questions and do those things. But all this time, you're learning how to become a great doctor. At the early stages into your first and second year, you're gonna get ACLS training, advanced cardiac life support, basic cardiac life support. You're gonna learn how to work on simulation equipment, and you're gonna see standardized patients. We're also opening a free clinic because we're a nonprofit, and part of our social mission is to allow you to help the people of Dominica. And that clinic's going to be on campus, and it's scheduled to come open in January or August of this next year. In addition to that, after you finish your first 2 years of medical school, you will go on to clinicals. You're going to take your board exams, your USMLEs, and then you're going to go on to clinicals. And the clinical sites right now are in Los Angeles at every place that are called ACGME approved sites. ACGME is the accreditation body that oversees all of residency programs. Not all Caribbean medical schools, and a lot of them don't. They send you to sites that are not fully accredited, but they allow you to graduate. What does that mean? When you finish your medical school, you got to apply for state licensure when you go to residency. If you didn't do your stuff at an ACGME approved site, those states, for instance, the state of Texas, where I'm at, they will deny you from getting a state license. There's only a few states that allow you to go and practice that say you didn't go to one of those pathways, you're good. In fact, that's what happened to me. And I went to a big Caribbean school called Ross. I did a rotation in radiology. I'm a radiologist. When I graduated from my residency, I applied for a state licensure because I had a temporary license in advance, and they would not give me a state license. They said my radiology rotation 7 years ago did not count as an accredited rotation, and so they wanted me to go back to medical school and complete a 6 week rotation in radiology. Fortunately for me, I became board certified and I overcame that, and I didn't have to go through that process. But as you can see, and the theme is here, I've walked in these footsteps. I've hit the pitfalls that I don't want other people to have. I don't want student loan debt that's exorbitant. I don't want you to have to go through accreditation and licensing issues. I don't want you to have issues with residency. I want you to go through this pathway with all the great tools that the team here and many, many people have worked on to develop for you, and get a residency and do it without worrying about other things. And when you finish, have low student debt burden and be able to pay it off with your signing bonus or whatever else in the short few years working at a nonprofit or things like that, and go on and enjoy a great life and help a lot of patients. And one of the major reasons I did this was because I've had the fortune of having great clinical success when I finished school. I was the fellow in economics and healthcare policy for the American College of Radiology, which during Obamacare, I was integrated into learning about all the policies. And through that, other medical schools, and I learned how to build residency programs. So this is where I wanted to get onto the residency program stuff. Many of these schools would talk about, oh, we have a residency program of this match rate or that match rate. That's all grand and dandy, but they don't tell you how many of their students failed out before they got to that residency place. And you can go online and you can Google any of the schools' names, and you can find that information and find out what the real match rate is. What these schools have come to me for before I started building the medical school here as a nonprofit. Is I ran a nonprofit for medical students who didn't get into residency. It's called OSARA, and me with the dean, we built residency programs in Connecticut and in Florida. We converted DO to MD programs. We started new programs in rural America to put students into residencies that didn't match. And other schools in the Caribbean have come to us in the past and asked us to help place their students. Now, the opportunity is for our students, not for other students. And as we move forward over the next few years, we're going to be building more residencies, and we're going to be sponsoring through our nonprofit, helping those residencies develop. And so you will go through the match. But if for some reason you don't match, you're going to have a backup most likely with us. And even beyond that, we are going to pick up the phone before the match happens. We're going to call program directors, associate program directors, and vouch for you. You did the work. You've passed. You've done well in school. You got good letters of recommendation. Your mentors are sticking up for you and they're writing for you. Getting a residency is like getting a job. Okay? You got to know what you're talking about and you got to know people so you can get that job that you want. And then the match program happens. So we will go out of our way and call those program directors and associate program directors and help you apply and help you with your personal statements and all the things that need to be done to get you to that next level. So in short, we created the very first nonprofit Caribbean medical school whose job is to make excellent doctors. Our physicians that teach you are all physicians and they're well trained from all over the world. And the majority that come down are from the United States and from Canada. We have state-of-the-art facilities on the campus. It's 150,000 square feet on 32 acres of purpose-built medical school facilities with anatomy labs and things like that. I encourage you to go watch the videos and see how our digital anatomy lab is run and all the different pieces. It's very close to me in my dear heart because other medical schools will teach you how to look at a cadaver. You will never walk into a hospital and they say, here, look at this dead body. Tell us what's wrong. They're going to show you an x-ray. They're going to show you a CT. They're going to show you an MRI. They're going to ask you to order the labs, and you're going to learn clinical medicine. If you want to be a research scientist, this school is not for you. If you want to be an excellent doctor, you want to do well on your boards, you want to get your residency that you want, and you want to go at it without too many obstacles, ACSOM is the university for you. And we have 5-year accreditation. We have by 2 different accreditors we're recognized. You have a pathway directly to the United States and in Canada. You have excellent clinical sites, more coming on board in the future, potentially in Connecticut and in Florida, soon to be announced if they get where we're hoping they're going for. You have early clinical experience. You've got modern state-of-the-art education. You have mentorships. And we want you, if you're on this webinar, we want you to come to our school. So what I'm going to ask you is, after you finish this webinar, is to go online and apply. You don't know if you can get in until you apply. We look at your application as a holistic process. Also, I know there's a lot of people on this webinar that are looking at the Prep for Success program. You may have not taken the MCAT yet, or you may be missing some of your prerequisites. Alternatively, you may be making a career change. I encourage you to go ahead and apply. There's scholarships available for you. The Prep for Success program is heavily subsidized. Your financial aid is covered. And what it is it breaks down the first 2 modules of medical school into a whole semester, because those are the hardest first 2 modules. And you make it through those first 2 modules, you have a direct acceptance into the medical school. It's a unheard of opportunity, in my opinion, because you've proven that you can make it through the first year of medical school. We slow it down for you, and now you've gone through it. And I've said a lot here. I've talked really fast because I don't want to keep everybody for too long. But just to let you know, there's been hundreds of thousands of people that have gone to the Caribbean, graduated, and are doctors in the United States and in Canada. This is a tried and true pathway. What ACSOM has done for you, it's changed the dynamics to allow you to go through it with all the help of someone and a group of people and US doctors and Canadian doctors that want you to succeed and minimize the chances of you not being successful. We're deeply passionate about education, and more importantly, we're deeply passionate about patient care. And every time that patient's going to come to you and trust you with their life, you're going to have the tools that you learned in medical school and the friends and the mentors that you can reach out to They're going to help you become and be the best doctor that there is in the world. And you're going to save the world and make a difference. And I can only treat 10 to 11 people a day. But if you go out there and treat 10, 11, 20, 50, depending on what type of doctor you are a day, imagine the massive impact we're going to have on the world and in society. After the pandemic, that's even more enlightening of us of we're all integrated. So that's about the school. I lived in Dominica. When we get to the question and answer section, and I went to school down here, I'll be up to answer questions, but I'm gonna hand it over to Maria here to talk a little bit, and then hand it over to our medical student so he can talk briefly with you guys, and then we can just start taking some questions. This is a little bit of different format than we normally run, that's more formal, but I wanted to give you guys the information, make sure you heard from somebody that went through the process. In fact, I have close to 11 state licenses. So probably many of you in different states, I have a license in those states because I'm a radiologist, and I also do teleradiology from Iowa, Nebraska, Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon, Texas, Florida, New Jersey, New York, a few more. So I've been through the process of multiple state licensure, and this school was made to be drastically different than any other Caribbean school, but to model the best American and Canadian schools there are in the world.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bagapur. And you did live in Dominica for a couple of years. What was your experience? What would you suggest to our future applicants who, have questions about what it's like? Maybe they're coming from Canada or Utah, who knows? And, the Caribbean is greatly different, right, from a lot of these other areas. What is your feedback on the island itself?
Okay, well, first, when I landed in Dominica, the first time I got there, I'll tell you my experience. It's a nature island, and it hasn't changed much since I was there as a med student. What has changed a lot and drastically is the medical school and the infrastructure surrounding it. With that said, we pick you up from the airport, take you straight to campus. Usually you have your housing arranged. There's some challenges sometimes with that, but we're there to help you. We have a student services and housing department, and we try to arrange everything. Or you can come pick your housing when you arrive. There's a few choices there. Housing's probably the least expensive housing you're ever going to have in your life. They run about $650 a month with utilities, electricity, housekeeping at $750 a month usually, and that includes everything included. It's all within basically a mile walking distance, if not less. And most people walk to campus. And then once you get to the campus, into this city, basically the city is made for the campus. Oh, there was over 2,000 housing units around the campus, and there's a large state-of-the-art medical school with a student facilities center where most of your classes happen. We have a gym and student life facilities associated with a hotel that's brand new in Dominica. That's probably one of the newest things there. It's with the Intercontinental, and we take students there a couple times a day, so you guys can study there, enjoy your time, work out, get away from school. You will be doing a lot of studying. When I was on campus and going to school, I never left the campus area. I left to leave for Christmas, Thanksgiving, the different holidays, and I went home. Safety wise, it's extremely safe. It's one of the safest places in the world. It's the safest country in the Caribbean, and it's definitely a lot safer than Houston, Texas, New York City, and Los Angeles, or any of the other big cities in America. Dominica is not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. Dominican is a former Commonwealth of a British colony. They speak English, and they're very, very nice people, and only about 75,000 people on the whole island. Not to be confused with 7 million or 700,000, 70,000 people who care and love the medical school and the people that are from it. The island and the people are forever helpful to the university, and the university is helpful to them. We have a social mission to help the population in Dominica and provide healthcare support and things like that. Our doctors are licensed in Dominica, and we provide services, unlike other Caribbean schools where PhDs, they can't treat patients. So you can't have, or a veterinarian can't treat a patient. So you're not gonna have a doctor be able to treat them. They don't have doctors. So we have that piece. Fun things to do. There's a lot of hiking, outdoor stuff, beaches. But frankly, I did nothing during med school. I spent my 20 months in Dominica doing the clinical work that's required, doing the academic work that's required. I would have a couple days off here and there, relax, and right back to it. That's most of your friends that are in med school will give you that same experience. It's like opening up a hose from the fire hydrant and then feeding you information. When you leave for your holidays, it's safe. We have transportation, things like that. Food, there's a couple grocery stores across the street. They have most types of food. And then if you have any special requests, the campus goes, gets it for you. They have different types of, if you have kosher or halal or whatever the needs are, we can generally find those accommodations for you. The school has a cafeteria also. We'll be building a coffee shop here fairly soon. And security is around campus. They'll take you home. We're also building shortly a gym and things like that on campus. So if you don't want to go to the resort to where you can do those things, you can do it on campus here. Friday nights and things like that, we have movie nights and different types of activities. Basketball team, they started a student government this last year, and those things are getting active. And when it comes to internet, things like that. Your internet's fast. We also have backup internet with Starlink in case something goes down. The campus, just like if you live in Florida or Puerto Rico or any of the southern states, there's going to be storms. So if there's a bad storm, you can come to campus. We've got electricity, water, Category 4 proof hurricane building, all those different things that are needed to run a great school. It's only about a 3.5 hour flight from Miami. So I'm pretty where anywhere in the United States or in Canada, you can fly early morning at the 5 a.m. flight, be in Miami, and then connect and be in Dominica by 2 p.m. Student services will manage all your visas and all the things that are required to get into the country, student visas. You don't really need to do much. We take care of all that. We're like your mom and your father. We hold your hand, we take you through the process, and we put you where you need to be. So all you have to do is focus on studying. If you have issues, you go to student affairs and student services. We try to help you. If we don't have the answer, we'll go above and beyond to get the answer to help you and do things. I lived there for 2 years. I'm also down there very often, and it's a wonderful place to be. And it's paradise, but your paradise is probably going to be limited to the confines of the university and studying. And then when you get back to the United States for your clinicals, or to Canada if you're a Canadian citizen, that functions just as a U.S. school as well. You'll be staying in an apartment close to the hospital that you're going to be working in, and you'll be working your different clinical rotations, those being internal medicine, all the primary care surgery, and of course surgery in your first year. Then in your second year of clinicals, you'll be doing all your electives. Let's say you want to be cardiologist, so you go do cardiology electives, internal medicine electives, and we help arrange all those for you. And we'll also help arrange those at visiting sites at other places that are friendly to people that we know, or things like that. So that's my quick rundown of living in Dominica.
Thank you
Oh,
so
if you
much.
have family, I'm sorry. If you have a family, it's family friendly. There's schools right there. A lot of the faculty members send their kids to schools, and your family can have a good quality of education. Food expenses are about a little bit more than what they are here in the States, about 10 to 20% more, but we try to accommodate that with some financial aid to make up for some of the food costs. But overall, like I said, our costs compared to other places are pretty low and reasonable.
All right. Thank you so much. I do want to add that if you would like to see what Dominica looks like, you can go on Instagram. There are several profiles there. I think Explore Dominica, Discover Dominica, that have beautiful videos and photos. Also, National Geographic voted Dominica one of the top 10 places in the world to visit. And, this might be the only time in your life when you will be able to live in a place like this for 2 years. So it's a very special experience. Thank you again, Dr. Bagapour. All right, so moving along, I would love to, and here's your information as well, Dr. Bagapour. Do you want to invite people to?
Oh, yeah. So just anybody that's on this webinar, coming to our school, going to any school, have questions about healthcare, have questions about becoming a doctor, have questions about the pathway, want to ask me something personal, want to get referred over to financial aid, you can always reach out to Maria and Mason Philpott, and they can work with you as an advisor and take you through the process and things like that. But here's my contact information. This is my personal cell phone number. You have direct access to me. You can text me. I'll be in touch with you. I might have texted some of you all already telling you to join the conference. Please don't text me about TV shows and things like that. Just kidding. But text me about anything that comes down to medicine, going to the school, and those types of questions that you need. I'm here to be your guide. I don't think any other medical school doctor, founder, even your own doctor that you see would give you their own personal cell phone number. I want to show you that I am committed to you, and I want you to come to our school. Please go online during this webinar, after the webinar, upload your application. It does not take long if you have a Common App. If you're a prep student, it doesn't take long either. If you're missing a piece of your application, submit your application and we will get the other pieces later. Let's get you through the process. In January, we have an enrollment class, and in August of this next year, we have an enrollment class. I want to get you going. If you say, well, I'm going to wait, think about waiting because we only have a limited number of scholarships. We are a nonprofit medical school. We can only raise so much money and allocate so many scholarships. They're on a first come, first served basis. And just because the scholarship you got offered at the beginning, that's not the final scholarship you're going to have at the end. Once we start talking to you and you talk to our financial aid and you talk about the community service and the different things that you do, we will get you more scholarships. We are a nonprofit. Our goal is to educate you, but I need you to apply to be able to have this wonderful team of administrators and advisors and faculty members to help you, but they can't help you until you've applied. So I really encourage you to apply. And then after this webinar starting tomorrow, you will be hearing from our advisors, from Maria and from Mason, reaching out to you to talk about any things that you may want to talk about. They'll be texting you, emailing you, and calling you. If you don't want to be contacted anymore, just tell us and then we'll let them, we'll take you off our list of contacting you. But you're invited. You've been reached out to before to come to this webinar because we think that you have what it takes to become a great physician.
All right. I do want to take a quick moment to say hello to our audience. We do have Diana, Jennifer, who is in New Jersey, Amira in Canada, Jaila in California, Nancy in Montreal. I mean, so many. Thank you again for joining us. Welcome, welcome. If you haven't dropped in where you are watching from, please take a quick second to do so. Additionally, we will have a question and answer section at the end. But if you come up with any questions now, feel free to drop them in the section as well, and we will address every question at the end of this. So thank you again. And everybody has the email and telephone number of Dr. Bagapour. Thank you again for sharing that. As he said, I don't know any other founder of a medical university willing to share his personal information. So very accessible and very committed. So thank you again for joining us. All right, so I do want to take a moment to talk about what it's like to be a student at ACSOM. And to do that, I want to invite Gian. He is our first year student. He just started recently, was at the white coat ceremony. I'd like to invite him to come on at this moment. And while he does that, we can see a little bit about his background. There he is. Thank you so much, Jan, for taking the moment to join us tonight, and welcome to ACSOM as well.
Thank you very much. I don't normally like to be on this side of the camera, but if you will pardon me, sometimes I will be speaking over my words. But it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to just speaking a little bit about this process and what happened. I did come onto the island about a month ago. In August. It is now about 4 weeks into our very first module. And I'd probably like to start at our white coat ceremony, actually. And if you can see on the upcoming slide, it was really the start and the capstone to our entire orientation. I will start at the bottom in the when we talk about the reception. This isn't actually, I'm not actually going to be talking about the post-ceremony reception, and that was fun as well. I believe there are some pictures floating around of the live jazz duo, lots of smiles, everyone was mingling. But I want to talk to you about stepping into that auditorium. There was a real energy in the air. It was really electric. I looked around. I really didn't expect to see too many people. 75,000 people on the island, right? But everyone was there. There was an open invitation to the public, all the staff, all the faculty, the students, to leadership, board members, like everyone was there. There were representatives and top leaders from the government of Dominica. It was really around this point that I started just to realize, as much as the school is supportive of us, was how much the school itself was supported by the government, by the entire country of Dominica. It really means a lot to the Dominicans. It was a really profound realization to see how integrated this institution is with the country. And for me, that I mean that just speaks volumes about everyone behind the university, from leadership to faculty, really stands out to me. So I really wanted to mention that, and that was really important. From my perspective, this ceremony was really, again, like I said before, the capstone of orientation. It really marked a new beginning. I had spent so much time researching pre-arrival, during the orientation week, getting acclimatized to non-academic life, and generally just making sure that I was well set up to focus on the medical education. I was really anxious to start. We received a great welcome from the deans, the founder, the student body, and really our oath. When everyone was up there, there were lots of students and faculty that renewed their oath. Really set the stage for things to come, and the mindset that all of us as future doctors, would hold dear to our hearts as we kind of continued this education and then on to residency and then beyond. So I was really excited about that. And really, it was like game time. So as the moment that white coat was put on, this is for real. You know that come Monday, that's it. We're in this, and we're starting off. Regarding the first weeks, I really prepped by just leaning on established resources. My idea here was pre-departure. I wanted to limit the running around when school started. And everyone was there to help out. So you'll be hearing a little bit about pre-departure orientation. Thank you very much, Student Services. They were an amazing help pre-departure. I am from Canada, so prior to leaving home, I made sure that I had my housing. I went on the Accepted Students Resource website, and there was a wealth of information, a packing list. I will be releasing a packing list of my own as well. I'll speak a little bit about that Facebook website. But just in terms of getting ready, one of the key things here is I reached out to current students. You heard from Dr. Arvind Bagapour. He made himself so available to us, all the deans, made themselves available to any of us that wanted some more information prior to applying and even after applying. So they were a tremendous resource for me. A piece of advice: imagine an extended stay. Look into life on the island, the foods, the availability of social and recreational activities. Look for those familiar things from home, but don't forget to leave space to embrace the island culture. It is so important, and I am not regretting a thing right now. The entire community at school is really supportive here. We're talking about we were talking about the internet, and funny enough, it was one of the first things that kind of went a little haywire during orientation. Like almost immediately, everyone was all hands on deck. Obviously, it was really important for us to access some of these school resources. And they had that thing up and running in no time. It was amazing to see them work. And in general, if you had any issues with banking or finances, getting around, shopping for food, just ask, and everyone is here to help out. So, in terms of the community, I can say that, I had all the help that I really required, and I really didn't feel like I was put out in any way. So that was wonderful. With regard to school, the technology, you heard a little bit about our MD-led small groups, problem-based and case-based kind of format. It is phenomenal. In terms of the learning, integration with real cases, and having the feedback from these MDs that had practice experience before made a world of difference. And I'm really excited to kind of see where that leads in the future. In terms of like electronic resources, the library is fantastic. We were given a whole bunch of resources with regard to online learning, and I'm making use of it every single day. In about 3 weeks' time, we have our first modular exam, and I feel prepared. So it's still a long time to, 3 weeks doesn't it seems like a long time, but it's going to come by in a flash. But in terms of the resources and being well prepared, it's all here. We just need to open our laptops, our iPads, and we have access to everything that we need. So it's a wonderful learning environment. In terms of technology and information resources, I really couldn't ask for more. And if I did, chances are it would be made available to us. So I'm really happy about that, and it's been a wonderful process right now from white coat all the way through our first month. It's about 4 weeks into the program right now, and I'm loving it. Yeah. Also, on a personal note, um, I did start kind of a little bit of a photo blog, just cool things on the island, a little bit about what's going on extracurricularly in school and in the community. It's a fun little side project. I didn't really mean for it to go anywhere, but it was just for me. I realized how important it was to get some of the information from the current students that are currently going through the process. And I wanted to make sure that some of that information that I received, gets put out there as well for other people who might be interested in just learning a little bit about some of the other aspects to medical education here at ACSOM, and just about life in general. So yeah, feel free to check it out if you get a moment. And I'd love to hear what you think. And if you have any feedback, bring it on. We're looking forward to making that better and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Gian. And we do hear your accent. So you're from Canada. So that's
Yes.
quite a drastic change, right? Going from Canada to the Caribbean.
Yeah,
do you
can
have
say
any? Okay. Do you have any, words of advice for those that are worried about a drastic
Sure.
change, for example, especially if they've never left their, family's home or the city they live in?
Absolutely. And all I have to say is you do have to take that leap, but take that leap knowing that there is a huge safety net here for you. Really, there is a huge safety net for you. Start to find, again, one of those things that I really found helpful, start to find the things that connect you to home. If you played basketball, come and join a league. If you did yoga, you will find yoga classes around here. If you like to cook certain foods or enjoyed certain foods, find it, find it. It is here, it is available. So if you ever get homesick, know that, hey, guess what? You're a WhatsApp call away. You're a phone call away. Email is here. Like, you can be so well connected or not at all. I'm sure all the loved ones at home will be clamoring to hear about your day. Like, you can make that contact as much or as little or as much as you'd like, but save room for some of the adventure of exploring a new country, exploring a new culture, exploring the neighbors. Like, everyone here is so friendly. And I do call home every day, absolutely. But I also make sure that I'm living in the moment, living present, and that's what keeps me grounded here. That's what helps me get through the day and study, is knowing that there is all the support that I need if I ever have any questions, anything at all, actually, with regard to whether it's academically related, or just living, living on the island. So I know that someone's got my back all the time, and that makes a huge difference.
Well, thank you once again. And I know you have a very busy schedule, so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Stay around. We probably will have some questions from the audience for you. It's not every day that we have a student joining us. So again, this is great, and you're very generous with your time. So now I would love to introduce Mason Philpott. He is one of our admissions advisors, and I'm going to invite Mason to join us. Hi, Mason. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah, I'm going to invite you to talk about the admissions process and, share a little bit about yourself.
Great. So I'm an admissions advisor here at American Canadian School of Medicine. I was also in Dominica as we were first getting going, so I lived on the island as well. It's a really great opportunity for students to really immerse themselves into their medical education. And kind of as Gian has pointed out, you really have an entire community that's supportive of what it is that you're doing. So this is a great place to go and study medicine. And I know we've had a few questions about the admissions process. Please keep in mind, we have a holistic approach to our admissions process. So we don't necessarily just look at your GPA and MCAT score. We are going to be looking at, what it is you are doing outside of the classroom, any volunteer activity that you've done, any work experience that you've had, students that have been involved heavily in community service and community health, reducing healthcare inequalities. These are all things that are going to help you out. You are going to be required to go through an interview with us. The process is pretty simple. If you have a AMCAS or a COMAS application, you can just go ahead and apply with that application. That'll be enough to set up an interview for you. In regards to having a bachelor's degree, we do require that you have 2 semesters of biology, 2 semesters of chemistry, 1 semester of organic chemistry, 1 semester of math or biostatistics, and then 1 semester of physics, which sometimes can be substituted for other courses that you might have. If you're just using our regular application, we will need your transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, a personal statement, your resume, your MCAT score, and then that'll move you on to the interview stage. A lot of our students might be in the process, especially if you're graduating this semester or not graduating, let's say until May of 2025. Maybe you don't have your letters of recommendation. You can still go ahead and start the application with us and get an interview scheduled. A lot of times it can take a while to get those. We don't want it to hold you back from being able to interview with us. It's a pretty easy process. I would definitely recommend, again, if you have the AMCAS or a COMAS application, go ahead and apply with that. We should have everything that we need on there. If not, myself or Maria will reach out to you and just say, hey, can you send me a copy of your resume? As long as we have it as an attachment on by email, it'll be automatically linked to your application. The admissions committee will be able to review it with that. So basically, after someone has gone through an interview, your application then goes to review by our admissions committee. And from there, they make a decision whether you've been accepted or they could decline. The other option that we have is we do have a Prep for Success program. I'm really excited about it. This is a great opportunity, especially for people maybe who've been working in the medical field and you haven't taken the time to take the MCAT. You basically would get 2 modules that we normally do in medical school. So it's a little bit more slowed down. There's some additional time to make sure you're up to full speed of starting medical school. And once you complete that semester within the Prep for Success program, if you've fully completed the program in good academic standing, then you'll automatically be accepted into our MD program. So this is something I'd be able to speak with you as well if you had some additional questions. But it's a great opportunity. I think it's a much better option. Sometimes students, if they don't have the best academic record, they'll look at doing a post-bac program or even like a 2-year MPH program. This is definitely going to save you some time, ultimately, if your goal is to become an MD. So obviously, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave some comments in the comment section, and we'll be happy to address it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mason. I appreciate it. All right. And once again, this is my telephone number and my email. Like Mason said, we are always available to answer any questions you have, offer suggestions, guidance, anything at all. Even if you just need a little boost, we're here to offer that. If your family or loved ones have questions, which they often will, they're more than welcome to contact us as well. I will be in Puerto Rico this coming week, the entire week. I'll be visiting various universities. So if you are in Puerto Rico now, or if you will be and you want to meet with me in person to discuss your application or the application process, please send me a text or email, and I would love to schedule that face-to-face in-person meeting with you. Okay, so at this point, I want to bring everybody back on. Dr. Baggerpour, John, we'll keep Mason here. We're going to address some questions, and I know we've had a lot of them have already been answered. Shakira wanted to know about the GPA and MCAT. Mason just addressed that. Nancy wanted to know about the library. Gian talked about that. So let me see if there are any questions that we have not addressed. Everybody has been so informative. Nancy wanted to know about the internet. We talked about having the fiber internet and 2 backups. Let's see, any new questions? Again, we've had so many questions and they have all been answered. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Gian? Oh, we just got a new question actually from Nancy. After 2 years, are we by ourselves to prepare for the MCCEE? So that's the Canadian USMLE version. So no, you will get assistance. We'll walk you through that. Obviously, Canada has a very different program than the United States does, a different policy and procedure. So we can certainly address that with you. But again, we're accredited in Canada and the US, and our goal is if you want to be a physician in Canada or the US, we're going to make that happen for you and help you out. How does tutoring look like? What services do you offer? Thank you, Diana. Great question. Who would like to address that?
I can address that actually.
Great.
Yeah, so there's the Student Learning Center, which is kind of attached to the library. So there are a set number of tutors for each of our core modules. And whenever or if ever you feel like you need that extra help, you can easily just apply, just fill out a quick questionnaire. What's your available times like? What subject matter you might need help with, and they will pair you with the appropriate tutor. So if ever that you feel stuck in any way, there's peer tutoring that's available, and our facilitators always have an open door policy with regard to getting help from them as well. So there's lots of academic support should you require it, should you need it.
Great, thank you so much. All right, any other questions? Again, there have been many, but they have been addressed. Amira says, congratulations, John. Did you practice MD now in Canada? Is there any problem about accreditation for your diploma? There will not be.
So as I see it right now, with everything that's been set up with the current accreditation at ACSOM, there should be no problems with regard to applying for CARMS, which is the equivalent of the US match program in Canada. So if I wanted to apply to do residencies in Canada, that shouldn't be a problem if that's the pathway that you want to take. There are a few different pathways actually to practicing back in Canada, but all the doors are open right now. So yeah, not worried about that right now.
Great, thank you so much. All right, any other final questions? Again, I know that all of our guests have been extremely informative and so generous with their time. We thank everybody for joining us. And thank you to the audience. You guys have been fabulous. I see so many different cities and states, Michigan as well. Let's see, one more question from Nancy. How many hours of study time after classes each day and weekend to successfully pass exams? Can you explain your experience, I guess, in regard to that? Have you taken any exams yet, Gian?
Well, we have our first modular exams in about 3 weeks' time. So I'll be happy to update you at that time. But what I'll tell you is every day we have formative assessments, which means they're, testing are bits of knowledge that we've learned from classes previously, all the way through each day and each week. So with that level of kind of with that ability to assess and reassess all the time, we can easily make adjustments on the fly with regard to the content that we need to focus on, or maybe how we're studying or how we're scheduling our days. So that's a really important process, day to day and then week to week. It's just having the ability to self-reflect based on these formative assessments. They don't count toward your grade, but it definitely keeps you on track. So that process actually allows us to make sure that we are spending the required amount of time that we need to on material that we know that we're, not particularly strong in. So with regard to after class studying time, personally, I'm about 5 to 6 hours, roughly. There are people that will do more. There are some that probably not too many will do less. But really, it's just about studying smart. There is plenty of time to study. Yeah, but don't sacrifice your sleep.
Sleep is very important. Yeah. So well, thank you
Yes.
again. We do want to wish you, the biggest, greatest congratulations, Gian, on being accepted and on all of your future success as well. Okay. So that wraps up our webinar for tonight. Oh, we have another. Okay,
Yeah, it looks like we
Nancy.
have a few more questions.
Got it, Nancy. So we already discussed the study time. Oh, Diana, what transportation services are offered if a student wants to explore the island? What are some recommendations? Actually, I can address this one. So the school does have transportation, and we do have scheduled trips to different locations. So if you want to go to the gym, there are scheduled trips to the gym regularly. If you want to go to the capital, Roseau, and do some major shopping or just go to the capital, there are scheduled trips there as well. And if you do have a request, we can always, try to organize something. I have visited, and I was lucky enough to join the students on a whale watching excursion. So, there's a lot of transportation and a lot of access to opportunities. If you don't see something being offered, just, speak with somebody and we'll try to make it happen. But there is transportation. There is also public buses available, and there are taxis that you can hire as well. If you want to rent a car, you can do that as well. You will be driving on the opposite side of the road, and your steering wheel will be on the opposite side of the car. It's a little nerve-wracking. For me, it was. But there is plenty of transportation, and a lot of it is just within walking distance as well. All right. So were there any challenges that you have faced as a student living in the Caribbean? Blackouts. Do you want to have you had any blackouts?
Absolutely. Yes, they do have rolling blackouts sometimes to conserve power. If you are at home in one of the apartments, typically the apartments that are set up for students, and you will make sure that they have this, they all have backup generators. So just in case of exactly like what you mentioned, rolling blackouts or brownouts, all of the approved kind of facilities for students should have backup generators. And if you're in school, school has a backup generator as well. So I actually haven't noticed any type of issue with regard to power. Internet is still functioning with regard to if you have a local SIM card or a cell phone plan. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
All right, so we'll take the last two questions of the night. And then if you do have additional questions, you can always reach out to Mason, myself, or Dr. Bagapur. But the last two questions, do you have open house in case someone wants to travel to visit the school? Like Dr. Bagapur said earlier, there are plenty of hotels in the vicinity that welcome your guests. And I'm sure they can stay with you at the apartment if that's what you want. But there is plenty of accommodations in the area. And oftentimes we're able to get your loved ones discounts, oftentimes. Okay, so
if anyone's interested in visiting the school, please let myself or Maria know, and we could make arrangements with Student Support Services for your time there in Dominica to get a campus tour.
which we extremely, suggest you do. If you have the ability to do that, we welcome you to do so. All right. Are the fridges good if you want to buy fresh fish to eat? Yes, Nancy, the fridges are excellent. And I'll say the fish is also excellent as well. You can always get fresh fish on a daily basis. Are they like some kind of family housing for student parents? Well, we have accommodations as far as if they're visiting. Are you saying like moving to the island with you? There are apartments that they can rent as well. So that is a possibility. Like Mason said, you can reach out to our student services, myself or Mason, and we can give you information about that. That's a little bit more specific. So we would have questions for you, but we're more than happy to assist. It is definitely possible. If you have a family with children, like Dr. Bagapur said as well, we can make that happen as well. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. I suggest and welcome you to go and apply right now. Let me put the QR code. Let's see. Okay, so I want to invite everybody to go on our website. The application is zero cost. There is the QR code. Take your phone, point it at the QR code, start your application as soon as this webinar ends. Feel free to send me a text, a quick email, and let me know that you completed your application. Mason or myself will be reaching out to you tomorrow to congratulate you, and we'll help you throughout the entire process from beginning to end. If you're not sure about your transcripts, we'll assist you with that. We'll help you process every aspect of it. If you have questions about your MCAT, we'll help you with that as well. So don't let anything stop you or prevent you from filling out that application this evening. Again, zero cost, and all that you have to gain is the possibility of making your dream of becoming a physician a reality. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to all my guests, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.